Welcome to Reading Inspires by Reading is Fundamental. I'm your host, Dr. Erin Bailey. This podcast celebrates the power of books and the joy of reading. In each episode, we talk with educators, librarians, families, authors, and literacy champions to explore one big question. What does reading inspire for you? Through stories, research, and real-world experiences from classrooms, libraries, and homes, we explore what literacy looks like and why it matters. Whether you're nurturing young readers, shaping learning spaces, or simply love a good book, we're glad you're here. Let's get inspired. Today, I'm chatting with Dr. Deborah Pope, Executive Director, and Jocelyn McCarthy, Associate Director of the Ezra Jack Keats Foundation. And if you're unfamiliar with Ezra Jack Keats, you probably know one of his most famous books. I know I do, The Snowy Day, which was one that I loved reading with my daughter. And I had this little red plush stuffy doll of the main character, Peter, and my daughter and I would often cuddle up and read the book together. Oh, Deborah has the same doll. Yep, that's it. Um, and even though the book is about snow, it always filled us with a warm feeling inside. So, a very beloved book and beloved author. So, I'm excited to chat with you today. We'll start with introductions. I'd love to hear from you, Deborah. How did you get into children's literature?
Well, it's an interesting story, I guess, at least to me. Um, Ironically, I didn't read very many children's books, illustrated children's books, because I had a lot of trouble learning how to read and didn't really learn how to read until the fourth grade. My parents, of course, read to me, but my father, who read to me, enjoyed things like Jules Verne. And so I had a lot of chapter books and enjoyed them thoroughly. But for me, reading was very difficult. And so I understand, in particular, kids who don't immediately glom onto books. And because books became so important to me as an older child and as an adult, it resonates with me the need to make reading more of a friend to all children, even children who do not come to it organically or immediately. And the other the other aspect of my coming not just to children's literature but to this particular corner is that my father and Ezra grew up together and were boyhood friends and best friends until he died in 1982. And so this kind of blends into some of the other questions I think that you're going to be asking. So I'll pause here, and we can come back to that subject more about the origins of the foundation and the mission.
I love that, Deborah. And when I taught reading specialist candidates, I would often say, from my experience, the best reading specialists are those who struggled to learn to read as children. They develop a deeper empathy that they can relate to the students that they're going to be working with. So it doesn't surprise me at all that it has been your experience as well. And I also love what you said about making reading a friend. Such a beautiful phrase. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And we'll turn it over to you, Jocelyn. Would love to hear how you entered this space.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. So I joined the foundation just about 5 years ago. I came from actually a totally different background. I was working in marketing and promotions, and it just came to a point in my career where I didn't want to work just to work. I wanted to do something that I cared about and I was passionate about. And I had a young child at the time, he's 5 or 6 years old, and Deborah and I just started talking about the foundation, if it made sense. And I started seeing what the foundation does. And it was very important to me watching these kids in a traditional setting, not getting the support they needed, and how important reading is and the programs that we do. And I've been with the foundation ever since.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, let's dive in and hear a little bit more about that. Can you share the story of how the Ezra Jack Keats Foundation began and what inspired its core mission of supporting children's literature?
Well, first and foremost, it came from your introduction, Erin, and that is the snowy day. And Ezra looking around when he was invited to write as well as illustrate a children's book, saying, well, what about the children whom we don't see, the children who are there and whom we do not see in children's books? He said, that's the child that I'm going to center my literature on, because that was the child I was. It really does have to do with what you were saying also about people who can empathize with non-readers. Ezra empathized with the children who don't feel visible. And so that's who he wanted to make visible in children's literature, so they could see themselves in the literature. And so really the focus of the foundation is based very much on Ezra's vision and also on his life experience. He created the foundation in 1964 after the publication of The Snowy Day, but it really was used for about 20 years only to support organizations that he wanted to support rather. He left the royalties of the books, all of his books, to this foundation that he created, so that after his death, all those royalties could be used to do good in the world. And that was the direction in his will, to do good. And as I said just a moment ago, our programs and our mission is based on his life. So his vision was that all children should be able to see themselves in the books that they read. And so that is our core mission. And then in addition to that, Ezra grew up in a very poor home, and his parents were terrified that he would actually become an artist, because artists categorically starve. They did not want him to starve. And so they tried not to give him encouragement. They did anyway, but it was muted. It was strained because they were so frightened. The encouragement that Ezra got was from his public school teachers and public librarians. They cheered him on, and they really allowed him to move forward in the field that he loved. And so, for so many reasons, public education is so incredibly important. It became a focus also of our mission. And so when he died, the foundation was activated, and the programs were designed to do that work. And we have now 3 major programs. One is the Ezra Jack Keats Award, which is given every year to what a committee of scholars and experts deem the best of the year, illustrated and written children's books of that year. That's one of our awards, which I know we'll talk more about, one of our programs. Another program is the Ezra Jack Keats Bookmaking Program, in which children grades 3 through 12 write and illustrate their own books. And I have to tell you that they rival any of the professional books that we also examine. And of course, then there's the mock EJK Award, which is a reflection of the EJK Award, but tailored to and reflective of the actual EJK. We'll get into that later too.
Wonderful, thank you. That's great to hear about his Ezra Jack Keats' life and legacy and how it continues to be alive today. That moves us into our next question. I'm wondering how the foundation's focus has evolved over the years, while, still remaining true to the core mission, particularly around championing diversity and inclusion in storytelling and in children's books, because I've seen this movement grow a lot over the last few years.
Well, we're very proud of the fact that we really have always been focused on it. It really, as I said earlier, is the core of our being. And we're now in the 40th year, really, of the programs that I described to you. How has our mission changed or evolved? To a large extent, it has changed based on the economy, in the sense that teachers in public schools and public librarians their needs have changed, and the requirements that they need to meet have changed. And so we need to meet teachers and librarians where they are, not where they were 10 years ago. The core of what we offer them has pretty much remained stable. Diversity, inclusion, and public education. But our programs have evolved. We used to have a program called the mini grant program, which in which we got applications from teachers and librarians for programs that they otherwise could not do. And those are small grants. Evolved into the mock EJK, which we have found to really be much more doable for the teachers. And that's what they need now. They need things that are doable, readily doable in the classroom. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything, Jocelyn?
Our programs also, we've gone along with the times where we offer a lot of virtual support, and we have like for example, for our mock EJK program, we do a Zoom orientation now because it's all across the country. For our committee on the EJK award, we do virtual deliberations, whereas before, anyway, we're just we're a victim of the advances of technology, just like anywhere else, but it does make our programs and our work more accessible for everyone. And how else has it evolved? Yeah, just like Deborah said, we were one of the only, if the only award that had diversity as a component. And I'd say in the last 5 years, a lot of other awards talk now are starting the conversation and focusing more on diversity, but that's our core. That's who we are. So we've emphasized that and supported that mission throughout the years.
And you've had more join your mission, and it seems that children's literature is moving in that direction too, of being more supportive of diversity and inclusion. So I'm sure that's wonderful for you, and you have more and more submissions for the EJK award every year. So I want to talk a little bit about just the EJK award before we get into the mock. So for listeners who are unfamiliar, you're definitely going to see it everywhere now. Check out your classroom library. You'll find either a gold or silver round emblem with the character Peter in it in his famous red puffy snowsuit. And that's the award. It's given every year to a children's book. So I'm sure all of our listeners, as I am, are eager to find out how does it happen? What's the behind the scenes of the award? Who reviews the books? How do you submit books? All of the behind the scenes.
I just also want to add, we have 2 winners. One is for illustration and one is for writing, author. And we also have 4 honor books.
Honor.
So each year there are actually 6 books highlighted, and we're very proud of that. 2 honors for writing and 2 honors for illustration. How does it work? Well, as Jocelyn said, the committee meets virtually over a weekend every year. The people who sit on the committee are pretty much are the same people or similar to the award committees that sit on the Newbery, the Caldecott, CSK, Perez, Scott King. These are people who work with children, who are librarians, who are scholars and work with graduate students, who are themselves authors and illustrators. Also, we're one of the few committees that include the bookmakers themselves. And they meet over the course of 3 days. Books are submitted by publishers over the course of a year. And so what we get is a selection of books published from January 1st to basically December 1st. Our deadline is December 1st because we meet right after the new year, and we need time to organize the books. And everybody on the committee gets a copy of every book and has to read every book and evaluate every book. And there is a list of criteria. And I think what Jocelyn was saying just a few moments ago was we are one of the first and to include diversity as a criteria for excellence. It's not just something that we look for. It's core. It's a core quality to a book. And the criteria also include the regular things, integration of text and illustration, originality, appealing to the intelligence of the child, featuring family and community, the childhood experience. And we're also very proud that people who serve on the committee always tell us how much they enjoy the conversations. They feel the conversations are open up the books. And I think to some extent it's because the scholars and the teachers are meeting with the artists and the illustrators, and they learn from each other. So at the end of the 3 days, we have the 2 winners and the 4 honors. And then comes the real fun, and that is calling the publishers to tell them, to tell their artists and authors that they've won or been honored. And that's always a fantastic experience because it means so much. It does what we want it to do, and that is it gives these. Oh, that's another thing I need to highlight. This is for people who are relatively early in their career. We focus on people who have not already gotten a lot of it, notice. So this is really to boost careers, and so we are able to see that kind of joy.
Yeah, oftentimes the winners of our award go on to winning Caldecots. These are really people that they don't have more than 2 books published. They're really just starting their careers. And this is a real boost to get an EJK award. We've seen the Deborah, do you know offhand like Dawn Tate and
Sophie Blackall, Christian Robinson, Oge Mora, Brian Collier, and on. We could name quite a few. But actually, you know what? We should redo part of that, Jocelyn, because it's 4 books included. This is a pause in our because this is always is confusing always. It's not just now. It's 3 books published plus the one being considered, or no more than 4 books published. I think probably saying there are no more than 4 books published. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, I get confused about. I'm not on the committee. I don't work on but so
we all get confused about it, Jocelyn. Look how many times I had to say it.
So okay, because there's a difference if it's author and illustrator as well, right?
Yes.
So isn't it 2 books as an author?
No. You know what? I think that the easiest way to do it is simply to say
books.
4 books.
4.
Yeah. So what's special about the EJK award is that they're all new illustrators and authors. They can't have more than 4 books published. And that's really special. It really boosts their career. It's really focused on early career, and it boosts their career and helps them get known.
And I'm sure that resonates with Ezra Jack Keats' mission as well, and his experience of being told to some degree that being an artist, wasn't for him. And now he has the opportunity to support newer artists, people just entering the space. And that's very powerful as well.
It is very powerful. It is. And there are quite a few of the artists who say, I was Peter. they simply say, I was Peter, or I am Peter. That book made me feel like I had a place in the world of books. And we want to increase that experience. That's really it. Certainly we're fans, great fans of the snowy day, but you know, we always need more. Always need more.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I love that. So I know, Jocelyn, you work very closely with then what is called the Mock EJK Award. Can you share the details about that and why is it so important for younger readers to participate in that kind of award?
Yeah, we were we were actually being told that there was a lot of interest in bringing in the EJK Mock Award into the classroom by one of our partners in Baltimore, one of our educators. So we developed this program, the EJK Mock Award, and we think it's really important because it makes it really accessible for students and teachers and educators, librarians, to bring in these discussions into their classrooms. It's a really fun exercise going through the process. It reflects and mimics the actual EJK award process. And kids and educators really take a deep dive into these books. We offer our educators who participate in the program a list of suggested books, and they choose several and they go through the actual process of what it's like to evaluate a book based on different criteria. Of course, one being diversity, and they all talk about it. There's really interesting and fun conversations that they have in the classroom as a result of this program.
So the students are actually using the same rubric that the committee would use to evaluate the books.
Yeah, more or less. It's a kid-friendly version, like what hits your heart. The language is a little bit different. And what we found is the Deborah and I were just talking about this earlier today, is that we talk about diversity as being one of the criteria for kids to evaluate. And they come up with really interesting things. Like one of our partners said the kids came up with biodiversity in a book and talked about the biodiversity of a book. And it really brings up fun conversations. And they talk about illustration and community and all different things. Sorry, Deborah, you were going to say something.
Well, no, I mean, you did it. You talked about the way that the criteria is modified to be accessible to the kids, like it hits your heart, or does it make you want to read more and read more books like this? And also, quite, fundamentally, it makes critical reading about being fair, organic to education, organic to the conversations in school. And this is, we feel, a very important tool. And we actually do hear that from the teachers, that this is a way for them to see this quality, to encourage this quality of critical thinking in their students organically, without saying, this is what you need to be thinking, or this is what you need to believe. It's looking at the book and talking about what happens in the book.
Yeah,
So,
especially your example, Jocelyn, of the biodiversity. I see a lot of critical thinking happening there and vocabulary development for those students, thinking of what the word diversity means and how it may change in different contexts and through discussion. So that's wonderful. How else have educators and students responded to the mock EJK award, especially in terms of student engagement levels, critical thinking discussions, and promoting diverse perspectives?
Um, how else have they responded to it? The feedback, oh,
no,
Deborah,
go ahead, go ahead.
the feedback that we have received is very positive. We have a lot of repeat educators. So this program is fairly new. It's one of our, like Deborah mentioned, we transitioned over from our mini grant program into doing this mock EJK program based on need and desire. And we're seeing that with the people that sign up. But it's only increasing. People are returning. They're running the program multiple times. This is the third year that they are running it in their classroom. And I would just want to get some quotes up from educators and students because they're just so compelling and so fun. It's a really, really fun program to run. When you see an award ceremony in, let's say, a kindergarten class, and all the kids are, clapping their hand and they're really invested in these books, it's just such a rewarding experience.
The kids, there's one particular clip that Jocelyn, I think, is thinking of, in which the kids, it's like they're at a rock concert when they hear the name of the book, of the winning book that they chose announced. They go bananas, and you would think these are just kindergarten kids.
Yeah.
So,
and what's really fun too is that we provide a list of suggested books, like I mentioned, and some of those books are some of the same books that are up for the EJK award. So we provide a suggested timeline that these educators run the program, and it mimics the actual award. So our interest and we want to see if they choose the same books that win the actual award. If it matches up that way, we don't know, of course, because we don't know who's going to win the award when they run their mock. And it's interesting to hear who wins the award and why for these kids and for our committee for the actual award.
And also for the authors and illustrators, because we encourage the teachers to write to the authors and illustrators. And so it means a great deal to them, to the bookmakers, to know that the kids have chosen their book.
Yeah.
Wow.
We actually ran a EJK mock with RIF, with Reading is Fundamental Southern California. And I recorded someone saying why they chose a certain book, and I sent it to the author illustrator of the book, and she was blown away by the evaluation there. It was a lot of fun.
What a great way for children to engage with authors and illustrators too, in an informal way. And it doesn't have to be in real time. It's something they can record a video, write a letter, send it to the author, maybe get a response back via the mail or social media, and just a great way to keep the conversation going. And I love that visual that you painted for us, Deborah, of kindergartners cheering for a book the way you might cheer at a rock concert. And isn't that what we want for children? We want reading to be the equivalent of going to a rock concert, or insert your, concert of choice, because we want that engagement to be there. I think that's something that Reading is Fundamental and the Ezra Jack Keats Foundation share, is inspiring reading for young children and a love of reading. And to what you said earlier, Deborah, too, of making reading your friend. That's really what we want, is to cultivate that love and that joy. So I think you do that. I'm sure for all the educators who are listening, they want to know, how can I get involved? How can I get mock EJK at my school? So how does it work?
Yeah, so you just go to our website, ejkf.org, and sign up for the mock there, and you can learn all about our programs there. But if you sign up for the mock this year, we're offering a $200 bookshop gift certificate if you submit your results at the end of the year, sharing with us what you did. And we're really excited about that. We're hoping that that'll help make it easier for more people to run the mock if they have some support to buy the books for the mock.
Oh, I guarantee you they appreciate that very much. And I'll include the link for that in the show notes as well for all of those who are interested. But what a fun way to engage your students in reading, joy, critical thinking. I love it. I wish that I had that when I was a teacher. I definitely would have participated.
Jocelyn mentioned some of the quotes we have, which, be hard to get right now. But one of the quotes that I do remember from a student who said, I enjoyed this because because people listened to me, because people listened to what I was thinking. And that, you know, certainly touches, I think, everybody's heart to be able to feel seen immediately where you are and be valued for what you're thinking. Is a very precious thing. So,
Yes, agree. So the next question is about looking ahead. What new initiatives or goals does the foundation have to further expand access to diverse children's literature and support emerging authors and illustrators?
well, this friendship with Reading is Fundamental has been a real boost. We have enjoyed this kind of interaction with you and your mission. And we look forward to working with you to see what new things perhaps we can do. In terms of our changing our core, it's an evolution that we experience as it becomes necessary. As Jocelyn said, the market is relatively new and it continues to evolve. We really try very hard to stay connected with our constituents and be sensitive to what they need. So continuing to support the new voices of authors and illustrators. And this is something I think we didn't really mention before. We stay in touch with the people who have won the EJK because it's very important to us, and we have found very important to them, former winners, to pay forward. And the awards and the recognition that former EJK award winners have received adds to the meaning of winning an EJK. And that's something that we have found former winners enjoy doing. They enjoy being part of the movement to lift up the future. And this is also something that evolved because you can't do that until you have a whole family of winners. And so now we really do have that large family, and we can use what they have achieved to lift up the future, just as Ezra did. So it's a very much a community effort. Did I answer?
Yeah. Do you have anything to add, Jocelyn?
I don't think so, actually. I think that was
That's
good.
great. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So our final question, we always end the podcast by asking our guests, what does reading inspire for you? So maybe Deborah, we can start with you, and then Jocelyn would love to hear from you as well.
Um, this goes back to the very beginning and the fact that reading was very difficult for me. And so reading means sharing power because reading really is power over your environment and your world and your life. And of course, that's too much to say to a child, but it's part, I think, of why educators are educators, because we want our population to be able to have a world that's larger than what's immediately around them. And that's what reading can do. I think that's enough for the moment.
Absolutely.
This is a reading inspired. This is a hard question, Erin. I'm looking forward to seeing what others have said. But Deborah and I were talking about this earlier, and going back to what Ezra said about seeing yourself in books. And not only is it important for kids to see themselves in books, but it's also important for adults to see themselves in books, and for everyone to kind of self-reflect and look at things also in a different perspective. And it's so important today more than any other time. I don't know, it's always important to look at things from a different perspective and also relate to characters and behaviors and visuals in a book. Um, as an adult, I still enjoy reading picture books, and you always see something different when you look at a book, just with words or with visuals as well. And it's always inspiring.
Thank you, Deborah and Jocelyn. I think, looking at picture books, if we all, I mean, I do that for my job. I'm lucky to have that privilege, but imagine a world where all adults could just take a moment and enjoy a picture book, one in which they saw themselves reflected, but also opened their eyes and their hearts to new adventures. And as you said, Deborah, a wider world, because that is what we're hoping for, is to always continue to expand the world around us. So thank you both so much for sharing your insights. It was wonderful hearing about the Ezra Jack Keats Foundation, the award, the mock award. I know listeners right now are going to be checking out that link in the show notes to do the award in their classroom. I wish I could time travel so that when I taught first grade, so that I could do it with my students, because it sounds like an incredible opportunity and sounds like it's continuing to expand for you and for your community. So thank you so much. And thank you for listening to Reading Inspires by Reading is Fundamental. I hope today's conversation spread new ideas, meaningful connections, and renewed a love of reading. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a fellow literacy champion, and join us next time as we continue exploring what reading inspires.